If you have ever played any Final Fantasy game ever, you know what chocobos are. Chocobos are a big part of most Final Fantasy installments, and Final Fantasy IX is no exception. One of the biggest side quests in Final Fantasy IX is the Hot and Cold minigame, where you dig out treasure maps called Chocographs to find a ton of great loot, weapons or gil. Most Chocograph treasures can be found in any order, with a few exceptions because you need to upgrade your chocobo first. In this walkthrough, I will go over the locations of all Chocographs, ocean foam dive spots and mountain cracks in the game. In total there are 24 Chocographs, 5 dive spots and 5 mountain cracks. Also note that you will have to dig up 6 Chocograph pieces in order to get one of the 24 Chocographs. Now, as I mentioned just a minute ago, you can dig them up pretty much in any order. However, in this video I included them as how you would typically encounter them in a normal playthrough. If you want to skip to any particular treasure, you can just navigate to them directly via the shortcuts in this video's description. Now, without any further ado, let us start with the Chocograph locations. The first Chocograph is number 1 Streamside, which you can find immediately outside of the Chocobo forest. Between mountains you can find on the Dusk Plains west of Lindblum, which is also very close to the Chocobo forest and you can get to immediately. For Healing Shore, you will have to travel through Gizmlu's grotto and make your way west of Clara to the Assistant coast. For finding this Chocograph, you will get the Reef ability, which will enable you to dig out more Chocographs and go to the Chocobo Lagoon. After that, you will probably dig out your first Chocograph with that Reef ability, Eye Lagoon. It's on a small island west of the Mist Continent's Q's March. For Chocograph number 11, Small Beach, you will have to go back to Chocobo Forest and go south into the water with your Reef Chocobo. Now, those are the only 5 Chocographs you can get already in Disc 1. For the next one, Abandoned Beach, you will have to wait until Disc 2 and the story to take you to the outer continent. Once you are there, go south from Q's March. This is actually the only new Chocograph that you can dig out in Disc 2. As for the other ones, you will need the Blue Narcissus, an airship or at least the mountain ability. Once you've reached Disc 3, I suggest that for the next one you skip a few first and go dig out Chocograph number 12, Dawn Lagoon, because that one will make your life a little easier as you will get the mountain ability. After that, you can go dig in Chocobo Forest a bit more to discover a few new Chocographs and Chocograph pieces, which only became available after getting the mountain ability. Assuming you did that, you can now go dig out Chocograph number 3, Uncultivated Land, which is really close by the Zamo Basin, north of Trino, Chocograph number 13, Forbidden Forest, which is west of Dali, and Chocograph number 14, Green Plains, which is at the beach northwest of Evil Forest. Now the last one, Green Plains, will give you the Ocean ability. If you want, you can now go back to the lagoon to dig out a few more Chocographs, which only became available after getting the Ocean ability. Assuming you have all the Chocographs you can get at this point, you can go to the north side of the Lost Continent to find Chocograph number 19, called Lagoon. After that, make your way down to the shores east of Astogaza and grab the Coldfield Chocograph. After that, make your way further down, south of the Aifa tree, to find the Abandoned Lagoon Chocograph. The last 4 Chocographs you can get at this point are located around the Forgotten Continent. The first one, Sea at Dusk, being at the eastern shore. When you go up towards south of Shimmering Island at the top of the Forgotten Continent, you can dig up the Forgotten Lagoon Chocograph next. The Faraway Lagoon Chocograph you can find in the water at the west side of the Forgotten Continent, and the Ocean Chocograph you can find south from that in the water around the middle of the continent. Once you have collected all of those, you will have to wait a little bit longer until you reach the Forgotten Continent in the main story to dig up Chocograph number 15, Dusk Plains, which you can find south of Oilverd, and Chocograph number 16, Forgotten Plains, which you can find west of Ibsen's castle. For the other remaining Chocographs, you will have to wait until you have access to the Hildegard 3, as the last few Chocograph pieces can only be dug up after that point in the game. Once you have collected all 6 pieces, they will form Chocograph number 20, Mist Ocean, which will give you the Sky ability and can be found in the water north of Alexandria Harbour. Once you have obtained the Sky ability, you will have to make your way to the Chocobo Air Garden using a dead pepper and dig up the last 3 remaining Chocographs. Chocograph 21 Outer Island can be found on Karua Island, a small island at the northeastern tip of the outer continent. Chocograph 22 Outer Island 2 can be found in Lickenmack Island, northwest of Desert Palace. Fairy Island is located on Vile Island, southwest of the Aifa Tree, and for those who don't know, this is also the island where you can find the Yan enemies. Then lastly, you have the Forgotten Island Chocograph, which can be found on Pilcurus Island on the northern side of the Forgotten Continent. So if you have followed this walkthrough up to this point, you should have collected all 24 Chocographs and thus so have collected a whole bunch of goodies as well. But the Chocobo side quest doesn't end here, as there are still 5 dice spots and 5 mountain cracks to find. Just as the Chocographs, it really doesn't matter in what order you do them in. However, for the mountain cracks you will need the mountain ability, and for the dice spots you will need the ocean ability. Mountain crack number 1 is located in the mountains on the northeast side of the Lost Continent. Mountain crack number 2 is located north from Oilvert, about halfway on the Forgotten Continent. Mountain crack number 3 lies not far north from Oilvert either, very close to the previous one. And mountain crack number 4 is situated on the large island north from the outer continent and is where you will find the start of the Mognet Central side quest. Now for the last mountain crack you will need the Sky ability or access to an airship first, as this is located on a little island in the far upper left corner of the world map and is also the location of Chocobo's Paradise. And lastly, you have also 5 ocean foam dive spots. For the first one you will have to go inside Quan's dwelling and make your way to the back. You can also choose not to go inside and jump from the outside, but that could take a few tries as it is less precise. Then dive spot number 2 is around the most narrow part in between the Mist Continent and the outer continent. Dive spot number 3 is not far from there, slightly to the northeast at the peak of the island where Mognet Central is. And to reach dive spot number 4 you will need to go upwards again until you cross over to the bottom of the map. Keep going north until you reach an alcove of the Forgotten Continent, somewhat north of Chocobo's Lagoon. Then lastly, for the 5th dive spot, you will have to wait until you have returned from Terra to go to the location where Shimmering Island is. You can find the last dive spot there. So this, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this walkthrough. I hope you have found all the treasures very easily and that this guide was helpful for you. If it was helpful and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more great Final Fantasy content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!